Good day and welcome. Today's episode is about planning activities for the end of the year if you teach promotional grades. This is Tips to Teach, and the mission is to share information to ease the demands of the teaching profession for new and veteran educators. I am Shauna Jefferson, author of Shelter for New Educators, with nearly 30 years of experience in 5 districts, both public and charter, and have taught over 1,800 students. In this episode, I promise to share how I planned for rehearsal and activities and how my team used that to motivate students to make better decisions for their lives. Although this school year is almost over, this is something to think about for next year. However, if you still have time if the school year ends in June. When I taught promotional grades like 5th and 8th, my team and I planned all year long for the last 2 weeks of school. Starting in September, students were aware of the criteria to attend those special trips. These trips were not the normal educational trips that most students were invited. Staff made it very clear that invitations would only be given to students who worked to improve their grades by showing a consistent work ethic and were respectful and kind to all. If students had many absences, frequent confrontations, were unwilling to follow directives time after time, and were just absolutely lazy, they would be excluded. This was reiterated over and over, month after month. It was posted, it was emailed, it was talked about. Parents were well aware, and there would be no room for negotiation. These served as the ultimate motivation. When the students read all of the events we were planning, it was like magic. They were enthralled. For others, we knew who wouldn't make it. Not that we voiced it or even discussed it, it was just crystal clear. And others surprised us. They stepped up and proved they could succeed. In 5th grade, I worked with my colleague and our entire grade level to plan a 4-day, 3-night camping trip. It was so much work. I think I did it for about 4 years until I moved to middle school. But it was well worth it. It was fun. It was filled with adventures. It was outdoors. It was a new experience. So we planned all the day activities and the night learning, investigations, and entertainment. The days included wildlife scavenger hunts, fishing, environmental games, archery, canoeing, cooking pigs in a blanket and s'mores over a campfire, and a few other rotations. At night, we had teen competitions. It was the best experience, and it was always scheduled the week before Memorial Day so the staff could rest up. I'm selling it short here, but by far, kids would vote this as the best trip of their entire school year. Now, when I taught 8th grade, one year we had 2 full weeks of activities in preparation for our 8th graders. This was something my team and I started planning in October, along with our principal, of course. Once we had a tentative plan, we scheduled a sit down with our administration to get approval and discuss implementation. We made the adjustments and proceeded. We also had to prepare for the ceremony. That included picking students to write a welcome, do a poem and a speech, maybe learning a song to sing, in which the music teacher would take care of that. She would lead that part of it. And then we had to practice the entire program. As far as field trips, I would start the procedure for that in March, picking up all the forms from the front office. That included the request form and lunch form. I created the permission slips for each trip, and I immediately secured the transportation for those dates. As you know, the end of the year is popular. I created a one-page flyer with all the activities and dates for students and parents. It would go home in late March and again in April. I would also email it, and it would be posted in the room and in the halls. Here's an example of our 2-week plan. Monday, the morning would be a regular day. In the afternoon, each class would get an overview of the program and what we needed to do. The class speaker would have already been chosen by my team. We would discuss making decorations and signs, with the art teacher instructing our work and designs. We would talk about attire and we would let our students know to wear something you would wear to church or an interview, not a party or prom. But that's a whole other topic. Other years we had caps and gowns, and that's another debate. Anyhow, Tuesday, the morning would be a regular day. That afternoon, we would go to the auditorium, give a preview of the flow of the program, get students lined up in alphabetical order, and do a rough practice of where they will sit and how they will walk across the stage to shake hands to get their certificate. Wednesday, the morning would be rehearsal for an hour or so, and the rest of the day was a field day at the park. Students would bring bag lunches, or we ordered them from the cafeteria 2 weeks in advance. We previously asked the PE teacher for baseball, football, and basketball equipment. The teachers secretly bought a ton of water balloons to fill up there and take out at just the right time. And we were about 7 blocks from the park, so we didn't need bus transportation. It was virtually a free trip. Thursday was a regular morning with rehearsal in the afternoon. By now, the kids doing the welcome and the speech are ready and they would practice with the microphone. We would return to the class for any questions and about guests and, anything. Friday was rehearsal in the morning and a roller skating trip. Oh, I will never forget our last roller skating trip. One of my girls had never been skating and she was determined to get out there and go for it. I was so impressed. She skated or really hugged the wall the entire 2 hours, just inching along. She kept going and going. Just when it was time to go, she was almost to the carpet and she fell. It wasn't like a big fall because she was holding on to the wall, and when you know it, she broke her leg. I was heartbroken. We called the school and her mother, and I knew we just needed to get her back to school. My boys helped her up onto the bus. When we arrived, the nurse came out and said, "Oh yeah, we need to call the ambulance." But she made it. She had a huge cast, but she walked across the stage with her crutches and everyone waited. The last full week of school was packed and the kids would be ready for the promotion ceremony the following Monday. So, Monday was rehearsal in the morning with the principal and other support staff. And then we left at around 11 a.m. to go to Stone Fire Pizza Kitchen, which is like a better, more upscale Chuck E. Cheese for teens. It had a rock climbing wall and video games and a movie room too. Tuesday, we rehearsed in the morning and the afternoon with the principal and support staff again. And we filled the rest of the day with teaching and last minute, promotion stuff. Wednesday was rehearsal in the morning, and the students were dressed well for our 8th grade luncheon held at a local restaurant and sponsored by our principal. It was a sit-down venue with the principal, teachers, and additional staff, and our students. After that, we went outside to take pictures by the fountain. Thursday was the last rehearsal in the morning and the afternoon. Again, everything was in order and in place. We were ready to go. And then it was also finished preparing for the Friday trip going to Chicago. Friday was the trip to the Chicago Museum of Science and Industry. We left early, probably about 7:30 a.m. and returned around 7 p.m. My principal was so awesome. She chartered and paid for a coach, a bus ride. Oh, so nice, because you know how riding on a yellow bus is. And before we left the city, we stopped at Garrett Popcorn, and she bought every student, chaperone, and staff a bag of popcorn. You gotta look it up. It's addictive and expensive and worth it. As we were planning and informing our students and their parents, most students began to realize that they wanted better for their lives. They learned that it wasn't as hard as they thought. It was worth the time and the choices they made. They had grown up right before our eyes. Self-esteem and confidence was evident. Providing some internal and external motivation for those last weeks of school will bring you and your students across the finish line. Our team wanted to reward the students who met the expectations. As you start to plan for summer break, this is one of the areas you probably won't mind working on for next year. This gives you time to plan and figure out a timeline for implementation. It will be easier to start calling venues and getting pricing. Thank you for listening.